Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Morning, sir.
Yeah, let's resume our discussion. So what did we discuss in the last class? Just a couple of points. What is that we were discussing in the last class? In the yesterday's class.
We discussed about convolution neural networks and limitations of using neural network.
Right. We discussed about limitations of neural network and we introduced convolution neural networks. So what did we stress upon? Or what is the main point that we have reiterated or discussed?
Is more of like a generalization of entire pipeline. We don't have to take new features in every time to so that we move to the something which should be like independent of actually the features every time we take.
Okay, so it's generalization for feature extraction. That's what you're saying, right? For many of the different applications. That's fine. So what else? So what's the key capability through which we achieve this?
I mean, we also discussed about Sobel edge detection. And,
okay, did we discuss mainly about Sobel edge detection or something else there? What is the point in bringing Sobel detection there?
To identify edges.
Okay, is that just to identify edges?
We discussed mainly about filters. Sobel is one of the filters we use to detect edges, corners, or features like that.
Okay. So essentially what we said is for different operations on images, like for edge detection or for identifying corners, we can use different filters. Okay. And then the process through which we get the information that we wish to get, our features that we would like to highlight is through what?
Convolution with the input image.
Right. So the stress in the last class was to highlight the importance of convolution operation. So we have seen that convolution operation with different kernels will enable us to find different features. Okay, that's what was the main point. This convolution operation is good for feature extraction, but we don't know which features to extract in different data sets and different applications. So that is essentially done by learning in convolution neural networks. Okay, that's what we have discussed in the last class. Okay, and we have also seen that feature extraction and classification were decoupled tasks before, and now this convolution neural networks will couple them. And put them both together as a learning process. Okay, we will see that in this current class. So this is where we were in the last class. So as we discussed, through convolution operations, we may be able to get the primitive features like edges, corners, okay, or say removing small noise, highlighting uniform regions, so on. So maybe giving more score when a particular pattern is identified and so on. That is the primitive features we can call. From these primitive features, we can group together to get a more, say, object parts based features. Okay, so if we can perform convolution operation on the different, say, initially assume that we are looking only at a small region in the image. That gave us this kind of features. And we have this kind of features at each small region in the image. Now we look at a little bigger region. And aggregating together this kind of features, we may be able to get to the high level features. Okay, that is essentially done at the little deeper layers of the convolution neural network. Okay, and we can again consolidate or combine in a nice way these different features and get the more object specific features or more high level features. And this is done at the even deeper levels of the convolution neural networks. Okay, essentially a convolution neural network, like a neural network, has a layered structure. And however, unlike the neural network where we give the one-dimensional features of the images or whatever data type we have. Here we can directly process the data in its own form, let it be 2D or 3D. Okay. And we can extract these spatial features in the smaller regions of the image, that is smaller receptive field at the initial layers. And as we move on to the higher layers or deeper layers, we can look at the larger region in the image or the larger receptive field in the image and get a high level features. Okay, that is essentially done in a convolutional neural network. Okay, so hope you got some intuition on it. So this is the researcher Jan LeCun, who proposed convolutional neural networks in 1995. And it became little popular in 1998, and it became much more popular with the application of on ImageNet and very large scale data set in 2010. Okay, so it took a lot of time to get its popularity on large scale data sets and its application to computer vision and image processing problems. However, it has very high potential that we will see subsequently. So as we discussed, convolutional neural network, what essentially does it? It has one main layer, that is convolution layer. Okay, what the aim of convolution layer is to extract features. Okay, or get the feature maps for the original image. The feature maps each feature map may look at different features to extract or different viewpoints in the image that it would like to capture. Okay, so viewpoint, I mean different kind of features. So one may extract here in this example, if we consider features or edges, okay, one may extract horizontal, vertical edges, one may horizontal edges, one diagonal edges, and so on. Okay, so these also are different feature maps. We can finally combine together and then make, based on the all consolidated assessment of these features, we can take a call on which object it is. Okay, on the classification. So this is explicitly done in the neural networks, but here in convolutional networks, we do not do explicitly. It will be implicitly done through learning. Okay, the kernels are also learned. They may not exactly find features all the time. Okay, so based on the learning process it goes, it may find any of the feature maps. Fine. So as we discussed in the previous course as well, now I will be discussing a little bit more details on the convolutional neural networks. We will discuss more details on convolutional neural networks first, about its architecture. Then we will discuss some of the details on the back propagation in convolutional neural networks. Okay. So see, from here to here, what we have is the convolution layer. So what essentially is convolution layer? Its convolution layer is nothing but a convolution layer is nothing but convolving the original image with different feature maps, with different kernels to get the different feature maps. Okay. So if you have actually initially, so let me see if, so let this be, you're able to see the writing that I'm doing here, right? Original image. Okay. So, and this, what we do here, there is a kernel. Okay, K. This kernel, let this be, say, be some dimension. Here, 28 cross 28. Okay. So if we consider later the idea of, or the example of MNIST or digit classification, then it is 28 cross 28 image. And then the kernel is, say, 5 cross 5. Kernel dimension is up to us. So initially, how do we decide the kernel? Please start the discussion, okay, from your side as well, so that you will understand better. Because CNNs, unless you understand there are very few things that you need to understand very thoroughly. Okay. And if you understand them, then understanding many of the neural networks, CNNs, and the papers related to them are quite simple. Okay. But if you don't clearly understand them, I think you will be in trouble. So pay good attention and quickly ask in case if something is not clear here. Okay. Fine. So you have a original image I, and through a convolution through a kernel, okay, you may get a feature map. So the feature map, let this be C1. Okay, I'm just denoting the first feature maps as set of first feature maps as C1. How many feature maps we have here? How many kernels through which we convolve? Those many feature maps we will have. Okay, so I will specifically write later, okay, on the mathematical aspects, but I would like to give some hint on the mathematical aspects from the beginning here. Okay, so say if I want to get a convolution layer feature map, the next convolution layer. Okay, so how do I get it? I just write jth feature map I'm trying to get. Okay, how do I get? From your side, any answer?
Sir, can you come again?
Yeah, how do I get the feature maps?
Convolution.
Yeah, through convolution operation, right? So through convolution with what?
Kernel.
Yeah, with the kernel. Okay. Right. So C1 jth feature map I want to get is equal to, how do I get? Say, assume that how many kernels are there here? So I write here into 6. Okay, because there are 6 kernels. I am assuming here. 6 kernels will give rise to 6 feature maps. I am indicating the index of this feature map by j. So here kj indicates jth kernel. Fine. So jth kernel where j is varying from 1 to 6. Since there are 6 6 kernels where I am using, each of dimension 5 cross 5, I will be getting 6 convolution, 6 feature maps. So now through convolution. So how should I write this? Okay, convolved with, this is the convolution operation. K, this may be the first kernel, that is K1 is the kernel that is used in the first convolution layer. Okay, K1, J. Is this notation clear? C1J is equal to I convolution with K1J. Hope this notation is clear to you. Fine. So yes. Now the dimension of this original image is 28 cross 28. Okay, the question now is kernel is 5 cross 5. Okay, now what will be the dimension of this feature map?
24 by 24.
Okay, so those who know has calculated in different way. So if I perform usual convolution, the dimension will be n1 plus n2 minus 1. Okay, so because we keep this kernel, okay, starting from here. So we will be keeping the kernel here and then keep moving the kernel till here. Okay, but if we do that, what happens? There will be border effects. Is it not? That means we are including some of the pixels which are not there in the image. Okay, in computation of feature map, which may not be very accurate. And it unnecessarily brings in a assumption of the assumption of the surrounding pixels, which are not there in the image. So for those reasons, what people prefer is to start the convolution feature maps from here. Start from where there is a complete overlap in the for the kernel within the image. Okay, they will start from there. So what is the point? What is the initial point where we can start? It is
3,3.
Yeah, it is 3, yeah, if you consider 1, 1 is the starting point for the image, then it is 3, 3. Okay, we'll start from 3, 3, and then up to where it goes? Up to where it goes?
26, 26.
Yeah, it goes up to 26, 26. Up to from here to here, right? So the effective pixels that I use is 28. Okay, minus 2. So that is minus 5 by 2 in some sense, or 5. So minus 2 here, minus 2 here. So because the kernel is 5 cross 5. So it can be essentially calculated as minus 4 or minus 5 plus 1. Okay, so this is the dimension of this feature map. Okay, so this is equal to 24, right? So the dimension of this is 24 cross 24. These are the dimensions of the feature maps I get, right? So once I get the dimensions of feature maps as 24 cross 24, where I am trying to include the whole kernel within, while the convolution is going on, then what this convolution layer essentially extracts what? Different features of the original image. Okay, and please note that this K, whichever I have started with, are randomly initialized. Okay, so they are not fixed. Initially, I'm not just fixing them as some values of Sobel or whatever. Okay, I'm not fixing them. I'm randomly initializing and trying to learn them later. Okay, so now after this, what I have is the subsampling layer. Okay, so from here to here, what I have is the subsampling layer. So assume that this is S1. S1 or the like subsampling layer, S1 of J. So just to have the correspondence. So now S1 of J, each of them are of size how much? It is assumed that we are subsampling or downsampling by 2 times. Okay, so the dimensions will be
12 cross 12.
12 cross 12. And how many such feature maps are there here?
6.
Exactly 6. Because we are downsampling. The necessity of downsampling or subsampling is compact representation of the features. Okay, so the first stage is feature extraction stage. Okay, so convolution essentially does feature extraction. Okay, whereas the subsampling layer essentially does compact representation of what? Compact representation of
Feature map.
features or feature maps. Okay, because finally, what we want to do, we want to use this consolidated feature information for classification. Okay, so there may be 10 classes or not as many classes as we have the features. So we would like to have a compact representation and then connection to the class neurons, output neurons to perform classification. Okay, so there should be a feature extraction and compact representation should go together hand in hand to have a very like crisp representation of the feature information in the original images. Okay, so now of this subsampling can be done through either downsampling or pooling. This is also referred to as pooling layer. Okay, we will see exactly how we do in the subsequent slides. Okay, but for now, I hope you understand the essential objective of the convolution layer and the subsampling layer. Okay, from here again, there is another convolution layer C2. Okay, so you are coming to the next convolution layer and then the next subsampling layer. Okay, and then you, after subsampling and convolution subsampling operations, you have a set of features and you can put all of them together to perform the classification in the fully connected nature. So this is referred to as fully flattened layer or fully connected layer from here. Okay, and then the output layer will come after this. And this is essentially the structure of a convolution neural network. Okay, so now let us see more clearly on exactly how we do subsampling. or pooling, and also how we do convolution when there are multiple inputs and multiple outputs, multiple maps in the input layer and the output layer. Okay, in the beginning, you have seen that this, whatever you have seen here, okay, this is a single input and you have actually multiple output feature maps. Okay, but whereas the input feature map is single. If you have multiple things, then how do we exactly do? That also we'll see a little more clear. Okay, so I hope these aspects are clear. So I am moving on to the next slide now. If you have any questions here, you can ask. Any questions?
Sir, here you have taken this filter. Yeah, sir, Vinayak.
No question?
The filter, the kernel. Hello.
Yeah, Vinayak, please repeat. Hello, am I not audible?
Yes, sir. This is actually which is better.
Can you repeat again? Somehow I couldn't hear.
Yeah, now I is audible.
Right.
This which is better actually, taking a kernel inside the image fully or padding the zeros actually?
Yeah, see, for classification task, it is better to take completely inside so that no extra information is unnecessarily brought in the feature extraction stage. Okay, we want to extract only from the image information, not from the border information. For classification. But for, say, some other operations where we need to maintain the input feature, input image dimension and the final dimension, also of same size, label dimension, in such cases, even taking with the zero padding is good enough. So there are some networks called fully convolution networks. Okay, there no flattening will happen at all. Okay, and then all is convolution. In fact, there are some networks where the dimensions are also doesn't reduce to too much small feature map dimensions. Okay, in such cases, people also take with zero padding. But most of the cases, they they put the kernel within the image itself.
So one more actually, this subsampling layer, is it not like that actually we are reducing the number of connection to the next neurons?
Yeah. See, essentially what we are doing is, here what we get is the response of the kernels here. Okay, if we see, these feature maps are nothing but the response of the kernel in terms of correlation, high response or low response. Okay, so if in a given small neighborhood, if there are several responses, all may not be important. Okay, so the dominant one is good enough to represent the small in this small neighborhood. Based on that intuition, we just reduce. Dominant one is because of max pooling, whenever usually we apply. So that is good enough to represent, and the remaining, say, error can also be done to that dominant location, not necessary to other locations. In the forward direction, if we are doing a max pooling, okay, that means these four represented as one here. It means that only one of them will be here. Okay, connection. And the other things doesn't have connection here. So in the back propagation also, whatever error you get will be back propagated to only that location, not to other neurons here. Okay, so it's fine because whichever is more telling some description, we are giving some input. Others, it's okay. So later, if others dominate, they will get the back propagation and then they will get updated. Otherwise, they keep quiet. The dominant one keep updated and then it will give properly the final kernel update.
Okay.
Yeah. So any other questions?
Sir, a small question about notation, sir.
Yeah, please go ahead.
You've mentioned C1, J. So what does this 1 represent?
Right, very good. So 1 represents the first convolution layer. Okay, and then C2 represents the second convolution layer. Okay, and then S1 represents the first subsampling layer. Okay, from here to here. S2 represents the second subsampling layer. In fact, the feature maps in the first convolution layer are C1. Okay, there are 6 feature maps, C1J, J equal to 1 to 6 are the 6 feature maps. Similarly, here 6 feature maps will be there in the subsampling layer. After downsampling, those are J. K I have put differently than J, just to indicate that the numbers here and here need not be same. K goes here, in fact, from 1 to 12. Is this clear now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, fine. Good. So any other questions? Okay. So I'm just now erasing this and moving on to the next slide. Okay. Fine. See, this is how exactly pictorially it is shown that it extracts different features in the convolution layer. Okay. And unlike in neural network where you bring into one dimension, here we will be having actually the spatial information preserved to extract each of the next feature. Okay. So we are extracting not in one dimension. So the even feature extraction and the final up to the final classification layer go together with spatial information, retained spatial information. So this is typically the convolution operation. Since you're all from EC background, I hope you all know very well. Some of them from other backgrounds can see this and understand the convolution operation. So the kernel is kept on the top of the image. At a given location, we are doing element-wise operations, and then sum of that element-wise multiplication is put at the middle point as the convolution sum. Okay, and the dimension now, you should be able to know the dimension in general, how to calculate the dimension. If say M cross N or M cross N is the image dimension, okay, and then K is dimension, F cross F is the filter dimension, okay, and then the output layer, feature dimension, convolution layer feature dimension, you can consider it as C will be M minus F plus 1. Okay, cross how much? N minus F plus 1. Okay, so this is the dimension you will have. So this you should be clear with. How to calculate? See, there are here a couple of different things in doing convolution. Different ways of convolution can be done. So here, if you see, it is how much? 5 cross 6. So it is 5 cross 6 and 3 cross 3. Then you can calculate that 5 minus 3 plus 1, that is 3, right? 3 cross 4. Okay, this is the dimension you are getting here. Okay, so in this example, see, it can also be done with a stride. The convolution can also be done with some stride. Stride means what? So here stride is 1. That is, we are moving from one convolution operation to next convolution operation only by 1 pixel. That is stride 1. Okay, if you move 2 pixels, then stride is said to be 2. That means you perform a convolution here. You don't perform convolution here. Directly you perform a convolution here. Okay, that is stride 2. And after performing here, okay, you need to jump. So you can't jump here and then you stop it there. So only 2 pixels you will get vertically, and even horizontally you perform here and you perform here. Only 2. So if you perform this strided convolution with stride of 2, okay, with these dimensions, you will be getting an output map of dimension 2 cross 2. Okay, so calculating the dimensions in when you have strides is also important. Say, assume that S is the stride. Okay, stride. Stride means between convolution to convolution, how much gap you give. Okay, that is the stride. Then the output dimensions. Okay, so if we consider the output dimensions as, so let us give some notation to the output dimensions as well. P cross Q. Okay, so C P cross Q I write. Also then P is equal to, previously what you had is M minus F, okay, plus 1 is what we had with stride 1. Now with stride 2, M minus F by 2 plus 1. Okay, this is the with stride 1. And similarly, Q is also equal to, so this is round operation. So whatever you have, it's round operation or it's floor operation, I think. So we'll just check that. I think it is floor operation. N minus F by 2 plus 1. In fact, instead of yes, what we write here, it is better to write it as yes. Okay. Similarly, yes here. So now if you calculate with this, what is the dimension? M minus F by 2, that is actually, it is 2 by 2 plus 1 plus 1, it is 1. Okay, and this is also 1 by 1, it is 1. Am I correct? So this is 6 minus 3, that is 3 by 2 plus 1. That's, sorry, 1 plus 1, that is 2. This is also 2. 1 plus 1 is 2. Is this clear? With stride, when we have, how do we calculate the dimensions? Is this clear or not? Fine. This is not very comfortable here in writing, but I am just hope you got the point. This 2 here, this is also 2 here.